baby, what's up? It's your boy, the nonprofit sector connector, Tommy D. The show is called Long Island Changemakers. I don't think I say on this show, I say I don't think I've left this island for more than like 7 days in my whole life. I am part of this island. This island is part of me. That's why we got those island vibes, baby, at the beginning of the show. Shout out to, you know, my new baseball jersey. Got 2 new baseball jerseys. I'm gonna get more of them, but in focus, man, very focused. I think with the red hat, I don't know, Limp Bizkit, anybody? Well, if you know, you know, right? If you know, you know. My guest today, my friend, Kelli Anne Cerini. I'm so fired up that you're here. We did a little thing called Cool Collabs like a month and a half ago.
That was a lot of fun.
That was fun, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, sometimes I just come up with an idea and I want to do a thing and I say, Kelli Anne, Eileen, let's jump on a Zoom and do that. And that was one of the things that, you know, I know you've kind of become very involved in that relationship with book fairs, and we're going to get into all that today. This show's about you because we collaborate on a lot of things, and I mean this, like, I'm so grateful for all you do for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I really appreciate it. I appreciate our friendship. I know I could just text you like, Tommy D, I got you, whatever I call it. That is so important in all the work we're doing here on Long Island. And what's kind of funny and cute is a lot of ways, like you're doing connections and things like that. I'm like, look, I don't know if I'm the nonprofit sector connector.
I always tell you I'm coming for you.
I love that. I love that because you are, man. You get it as being such an important part of NRH and Nonprofit Resource Hub for those that don't know, but and the Imagine Awards and all that. I mean, man, you're like as in it as I am in this sector and making so many connections. And I really want to go back before we go forward.
Okay.
You know, so we've probably been working and collaborating together maybe the last 4 years or so. Is that right? Is that
almost 6?
Almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow, time flies. So let's go to the place where, I mean, Cerini and Associates, founded in a garage by your dad, a guy we call Kenny. Hey, Kenny, what's up? And an accounting, you know, what I would say a major regional player in the accounting space here on Long Island and beyond, New York City, up Westchester, Jersey, all over the place. You run marketing for the firm.
Yes.
But that comes because what comes with that is because Ken, similar to me, creates different things. You know, Nonprofit Resource Hub obviously founded the Imagine Awards. There's so many roles and so many. You're like splitting up the 24-hour day into so many different situations.
Different hats.
Different hats, yeah. You want like this one, like a red hat. I'll get you a red hat. We'll hook you up. This is actually from an organization down in Jersey by the shore called A Need We Feed. And you can imagine what they do. Yeah, great organization.
You know all.
I know a lot. I know a lot. People say, Tommy D knows everybody. I'm like, I know like 400 or 500 people. I just tend to go to the same rooms where most of those people go. So that's kind of the trick.
That's Long Island, though.
It is, but you know, there's like a lot of people that we don't know.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it is very true.
It's true. There's a lot of people out there.
Them, though.
I will do it. I'll do my best to help you out. What's your story before we even get to 6 years ago when you work in Cerini and Associates? What's your background?
So I actually went to Marist College for fashion design.
Home of the Red Foxes.
Yes, the Red Foxes. So red on.
You know who else sat here? You know,
Yolanda.
Yolanda Urbano-Gross has sat in that seat there. She's from Marist. She actually put something on social media. She's getting honored for like theater program at Marist. So we might have to go up to Po-Town. Yeah, I had some people up there.
I know.
Yeah,
we've discussed.
Yeah, my cousin Mickey was up there. My buddy Dan was up there, and my wife was across on the other side at New Paltz.
Oh, okay.
So
love New Paltz too.
I think you were in 4th grade probably at the time because it was like 1997, something like that.
I was like 4.
You were younger than that. Even better. Here I felt like I was being rude, and it only got worse for me there. Oh my God. So you go to Marist. Why? How did you get up there? What was that?
So I knew I wanted to go for fashion or arts of some perspective, and my parents were like, "That's great, but you're not going to FIT. You're going to a liberal arts education."
Okay.
And then it was great because I ended up minoring in merchandising and business.
Okay.
I ended up I actually had most of my friends in education space or different backgrounds, and we also love to be outside, so it was a great place to be.
Did you go to Mohonk?
Yes, I've been to Mohonk a ton of times.
Man, it's beautiful. And there was like a restaurant up on Mohonk.
Mohonk Mountain House. Never been.
Yeah,
but I hear it's incredible.
I never was there because when we were there, my wife and I were kids, so like we didn't have any money. So, but we had a little dog, and his name. This will just tell you where point in my life I was at. His name was Michelob Light. All right, and it's true. We called him Mickey, but he was a Chihuahua. He was about that big, and I remember being up at Mohonk. And like you're like way the heck up there, and I was afraid he was going to fall off. It was like, you know, miles up. I don't think that's how they measure height. You should call your father. Feet.
feet of elevation.
Ken Cerini probably knows how to with all the hiking and stuff. But you're into that too. So talk about being outside. You got to go spend a lot of time in nature.
I mean, I was actually not that big of a hiker back then, but I did love being up there. I loved the colors. I just felt like it was a very inspiring place, but also a place to meet people with different passions and learn about different people, and just kind of started getting involved in things back then, did a bunch of clubs, just really loved the atmosphere.
Were there did you go up there with like a lot of Long Island people, or you met a lot of new people?
I went up there with a lot of Long Island people, and I did become friends with some Long Island people, but I have friends like all over the tri-state, which is also really nice because we still get together every year. Those friendships, they last for life.
Yeah, I've seen some of that. Like I've seen you post on social, like you're getting back together with the girls you went to school with. That's so cool because I joke when we start the show that I never really left the island.
Yeah.
So I went to Nassau, I went to Baruch. That didn't really work out so well, and I finished at SUNY Old Westbury. And it's. I remember a long time, like I'd have friends that were away, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to come up to this school, or I'm going to come up, and it was it was like
you never go.
It just never happened. It never happened, and I didn't do it out of high school, and it never happened. But I think, and I don't want to say I regret it, but I think there's definitely a loss in some relationships. But I got to say, if I had gone, I don't meet a lot of people that I know. I don't meet my wife. Maybe I would have, but I didn't.
Who knows, though?
You know what? You never know how that stuff's going to shake out. So I didn't go away, but I used to like visiting people who were away at college. But then I could still go home, and my mom would wash my laundry.
Perfect.
So that worked out. So I kind of had the best of everything.
Best of both worlds.
So you graduate. What do you go and do?
I was in the fashion industry. I was an activewear designer for 5 years.
Okay.
And then right before the pandemic, I pivoted, started my own line while also working at Cerini. That was when we were launching New York City Imagine Awards. So I was actually brought on just to spearhead that.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that's how it went.
So I was brought on to pretty much take care of the social media for the Imagine Awards, email blasts, things of that nature. Spent a lot of time doing graphic development and things like that based on my background. And then the pandemic hit, and the world kind of pivoted. I didn't really have to socially distance from Ken because he was already my father. So I was able to be in the office. I was able to kind of handle things on the ground a little bit easier, help with everybody working remote, and it kind of just, was like, well, the website needs to be redesigned, and oh, this needs to be done, and just taking on more projects, and then getting involved with Nonprofit Resource Hub.
Was it supposed to be a full-time gig coming in, or?
It wasn't. It was supposed to be part-time while I was trying to get my own thing. Ken obviously is an entrepreneur, so he very much supports that entrepreneur spirit. But I think that it was kind of the best way that things could have laid out. Because while I liked what I was doing before, there was a lack of fulfillment. There was a lack of, like, I don't know, I just didn't have the same, I don't feel the same way about work as I do now.
What because of who I am, I can understand why, but tell me, like, from your perspective, why is this particular work, the work that we're involved with, so important? I
think that through, especially Imagine and Nonprofit Resource Hub, but even Cerini, like, you get to meet so many interesting people. You get to work with nonprofits. You get to, I'm not on the client-facing side of Cerini, so unfortunately, I would love to interact with them from that perspective, but we have the webinars, and we get to educate them and answer questions or provide information for them in a way that they wouldn't have access to, and then you get to hear their stories. I know, like, Linda has told me so many beautiful stories about her organization.
Linda Beagle-Schulman?
Yep, and we've had so many beautiful connections that formed just through conversations, and I think that it's just a different, I'm a people person. I'm like you. I love to talk.
100%.
They always joke I could talk to a rock. It's probably true.
Yeah, same.
So because of that, I just love being in it with people and falling in love with their mission. And
it's so cool. I mean, when you sort of think about it, like, this is what we do professionally. These are our businesses. Me with Vanguard Benefits, very focused on the sector, and then all the other stuff I'm involved with as it relates to, as I say, helping nonprofits tell their story and amplify their message. I mean, wow, what a good gig it is, man. It's really cool. You know, you say Linda Beagle-Schulman, and she's been here on the show, and she's been on Philanthropy in Focus a couple times, and I mean, what an incredible woman. Seeing you and her embrace at the Imagine Awards this year, oh my God, and I'm going to lose it right now. And then seeing that picture, you know, which was on social media. She's such a good friend and such a good person and such a change maker. And that's the connections, and that's human. That's the human nature of what we do. And I, you know, not to beat up on other sectors, but I'm like, I'm going to tread lightly here because, you know, the owner of our baseball team is in the hedge fund business, and we love that Uncle Steve has money to support our team. But then I always kind of say to these hedge funds, like, what are they actually doing to change the world? Whereas the people we spend time with are feeding people who are food insecure, helping people who have substance abuse issues, right? Linda, perfect to bring up Linda again, but Linda Beagle-Schulman, she doesn't want anybody's guns. She's not trying to take your guns, folks. She's trying to, she told me that she wants my 4 children to be safe. That's what she told me the first time she ever met me.
And I think, though, that those people, at least the ones who want to, do give back to the community 100%. In the way that they want, through sponsorships and volunteer and community engagement.
I'm obnoxious about what I said. I know that, but you know what?
I just was
just like,
trying to paint a different
You're
picture.
100%, but I'm like, who do I want to spend my time with? Because I know they're totally philanthropic in so many different ways that, you know, but I don't want to go personally sell and hang out with those folks all day. I'd rather hang out with, that's all. But you're right, it is and it's certainly, as we talk about it, you know, the Long Island Imagine Awards, the New York City Imagine Awards. I mean, look, I have a for-profit agency. It's what we do, employee benefits, right? There's that partnership and support that's so important.
It's crucial to the sector. I mean, now more than ever, but like, you know, I think corporate partnerships is something that is really helping some of these nonprofits stay afloat.
Yeah, I had somebody on the show on Philanthropy in Focus this morning, and really important cause, and they're not funded. And it's just really sad because, not to get into the whole thing, but if these organizations are not supported, I don't think a lot of this work gets done. Because there's nobody to
there's
catch
nobody that can do it, and you know, there might be organizations that do similar things, but it's not the same thing.
No, it's not. It's not. Let's talk about the Imagine Awards, and we're going to try to talk to the Nonprofit Resource Hub. We'll bounce around, but many years ago, actually, I was at a company, this is about 2012, 2013, and my buddy Brendan Levy, who knows your dad for a long time, was working at the company with me, and he's got this guy, Ken Cerini, in the office, and they're in a boardroom, whatever, and I'm not in the meeting, but I'm kind of like curious what's going on. And I don't know Ken at the time, and I kind of got eyes on this guy. I'm like, oh, this guy's doing, wow, look where he's spending his time. This is a long time ago. This is 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I mean, it could have been the beginning, actually. It could have been early Imagine Awards. Right?
Well, we're 13 years in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Ed Probst and I, because we've been friends, he's my business partner, Vinny, Ed, David and Tommy, and Anne-Marie at Vanguard Benefits. But Ed and I went to the Imagine Awards a long time ago. It might have been 14 or something like that. And we're sitting like way the heck in the back. It's the first time I meet Renee Daniel Flagler. Girls Inc. had just like won that night. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like hugging them. I'm like, I don't even know you people.
I think that was the first night I went too.
I'm telling you, I'm like,
I think I went the night she won. Yeah,
so that's
was my first time
how long
ever
ago
at the Imagine Awards. It was like 8-9 years ago.
I'm telling you, it was a long time ago. And we're way in the back, and we don't sit in the back anymore.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. But we were like way in the back. I mean, they asked me to bust a couple of tables on the way out.
And I'm like, probably still do,
let's
honestly.
go.
I was like,
I'm the last one. I am the last one.
You leave before me. I'm like, bye. I've been here too long.
You know the guy who's a maitre d' at Crest Hollow?
He knows you.
He was literally, I'm not kidding you, I'm holding court with Glenn Taransky's wife, Sue, and another friend, Gail, and we're literally in the lobby now because we've been moved from the ballroom to the lobby, and he finally comes over. He goes, Tommy D, like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here in 10 minutes, and you're coming. Like, that's how it gets. It's not that late, 10:15, but whatever. They're done, and I understand that. But then we end up talking in the parking lot for another 10 minutes. That's what that meeting, though. That particular night, they had put me on to an event they were doing for a choral event called Remembering Matthew Shepard. And Matthew Shepard was tragically killed. He was a young man who was gay, and he was left to die. It was just a terrible story. They did a choral arrangement, and they asked me, would you come by? And we did a video about it. But these are the things that happen at the Imagine Awards. So yes, I am late there. What I was saying, the first time we ever met, or first time I met Renee, and I'm in the back with Ed Probst, we're like looking around going, wow. Now if you fast forward, and hindsight being 2020, of course we're as involved as we are, because it just makes sense. Yeah,
no, I think that was also the night I met the book fairies at that night. But yeah, that was the first time I ever went, and you know, from Listen, I do it now, and it's a different perspective, but that night was the first time I went, and I didn't go as somebody who works for the Imagine Awards. I went as Ken's daughter.
So what did that, so you had heard this man talk about this for a long time.
Yeah, I talked about it, but at that point it wasn't really streamed. I'd never seen it. I didn't know anything about it.
So what did you think going in? Were you like, oh, my dad's zany idea or something?
I mean, I knew it was a good idea, but I didn't know, like, I didn't know as much, like, it was a great idea. I knew it was an important sector to give back, but I don't think, like many of the people that we've been discussing, I didn't know what the sector did.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have an understanding of what was going on, and it was something that once I got in the room, I started volunteering for Girls Inc. after that.
Did you?
I started raising money through hiking challenges, and I started doing different things, and I started kind of understanding what that world was like a little more. It was really my first taste into the nonprofit
Because again, if it's not somebody's paradigm, it's not where they spend the time. You're in the fashion world. Why would
I didn't know anything about any of it, so it was my first toe dip into the sector, and you know, now it's like one of my it's probably my favorite event of the year.
I think so. I think I can't say for you, but I think it's definitely. I mean, listen, for me, I say that's my Super Bowl. I try so hard to meet all the people, and I go there with like actually owing people certain things. Like I have a lot of people like when we get there, you're gonna meet these people, and so I feel
it's so hard to do that.
It is
because you get there and there's just like. There's so many conversations, so many connections,
and it's not enough time. But there's never, and that's not a fault on the event. You can't have an 8-hour event. It's not going to work.
It'd be great, but people would leave.
Yeah, right. I mean, I would have more meetings, I guess, but it's so special. Why? What stands out the most to you from the impact while we're talking about Imagine?
I think that from an impact perspective, it really is the recognition that the sector receives. Like, you know, for me, from a perspective from the beginning to end, like obviously you and I read all the apps. That's extremely hard. I learn about so many, and there's ones that obviously, you know, I choose to get involved with separately, or the firm chooses to donate separately just based on reading the apps that don't make it that far. But I think that the videos, like when you're in that room and you're watching those videos, and some of them are causing tears and some of them are causing different things, it's like, this is what that nonprofit does. Like the applications are great, but they're not the same.
Well, and I agree with you so much. And I don't know if it's the way I learn, but I also think most people, you show me a story, a video of a story.
It's easier.
Of course it is, you know? I mean, maybe we can get people to send in videos instead of having to read all the applications.
Yeah, but it's to me, like, it's so many people through that, though, like people are like, oh, I can work with that person to do this, or I can work, like Maurice from Ogleski had walked up with me and he's like, after watching, I forget whose video it was one of the, I think it was DDI maybe, and he was like, I could partner with them, we could do this, like we could do this, and it's just like, as these nonprofit professionals are watching these videos, their brains are going, and they're like, how can we collaborate?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's kind of what also makes the sector different than other sectors.
Yeah, I also think that's one of, you know, if Ken Cerini was sitting here with us, he'd be like, it's about the recognition, but it's also about the networking. That's a huge part of it, and obviously, I agree with him completely. It's about that, connecting, collaborating. You know who I think killed it this year at the Long Island Imagine Awards? BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse.
I know, but like they're another one, like their application was amazing, their write-up was amazing, they were great. But I still didn't fully, and then I watched that video and I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah, but you know,
you don't get to see all the videos. You see all the videos ahead of time?
I get to see them ahead of time,
right.
But that's it too, like so many people are like, oh, I didn't win. It's not about like the winning, it's about being in the room, meeting the people. I always encourage people, like semifinalists, to come. I encourage people to apply again every year, you know, because, I mean, this was BACA's first year applying.
Let me tell you something. I was texting with Scout the other day, and he's like, Tommy, this is so good. There's so many things going on. So he and I got to jump on a call. Scout being one of those guys.
They're great.
They're incredible. And like I knew, and you and I talked about it, so we knew they were going to wear their vests and everything.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to fit in either with a lavender linen suit, right? So, but knowing that they were going to be there in that, I was like, these guys are going to kill this room, and it was so great, you know.
That's also the nonprofit sector. Everybody's so authentically who they are. They're not trying to be somebody else. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should tell people about what the Long Island Imagine Awards actually are, so people know. So like where they can find out, and the New York City, which is upcoming right now. So tell that story, like from what you've listened to Ken Cerini talk about for the last 25 years or whatever.
So obviously, we're in our 13th year, but before that, like this was something that he had thought about like 5, 6, 7 years before, because going to all of these galas, great. loves to support the sector, but it was always thank you to our sponsors, thank you to our volunteers. It wasn't really a focus on the nonprofit sector and what the sector does. And then on the second note, it wasn't a focus on like collaboration. There was maybe 1 or 2 nonprofits in the room who work with them who were supporting them. So you're only working then on the collaborations that you're currently with. So he created the Imagine Awards to bring recognition to the sector, to encourage collaboration, and then encourage the spread of knowledge throughout the sector, which is why we have Let's Imagine.
Yeah.
So it's an award show where nonprofits can apply in multiple categories to win $5,000, and then they get entered into a fan favorite for $3,000 extra dollars. And that event was just in April, so we're opening up applications again in September.
That makes my head spin. And I have friends who are not connected to this world that we're in, and they're like, dude, you're like on an Imagine Awards meeting like every other week. And I go, well, that's kind of how it goes. And that's just with 2 events, you know, and I know we talk and there's threats of more.
Yeah.
But you know what's cool about that though? If it was like, let's just say Westchester as an example, right? And I think what happens there is it's maybe for you it becomes a heavy load because there's a whole other thing, but like for people like me, like I get to play. It's playtime, right? I'm not going to be as involved on the ground in what goes on in Westchester and things like that, which makes me think there should, as it relates to New York City, we probably, and this is like totally, I'm just thinking out loud, we probably need to tap more into the community of folks for committee spots for New York City, because I know there's some, but there are thousands of people, right?
And businesses that work with
that work with nonprofits that we're not wired into that we should. So if this is a great little thing, if somebody wants to be involved with the New York City Imagine Awards, what do they do?
If they want to be involved, they can just go to the NYCImagineAwards.org. We are .org.
Yep.
Or email info@NYC Imagine Awards.
That's great. That's a good idea. All right, we should do more of that stuff. Yeah, get more people involved, because like you're only, not you, an individual or a group or a community is only as strong as the connections and the relationships they have. So we got to tap more into that. Let's talk Nonprofit Resource Hub.
Yeah, so Nonprofit Resource Hub, well, you're one of the founding members.
I am.
So that started before I started at Cerini. I came in, I guess, probably a year after it started at this point. So that's a resource where you can find everything nonprofits need in one space. We are working on increasing the resources that we have. So we just uploaded a micro-strategic plan template.
I love that thing, by the way. You guys crushed that. So if anybody wants that, TommyD.NYC, no, that's Instagram. TommyD@philanthropyinfocus.com or tdemisa@vgdny.com if you're a nonprofit. I mean, that piece you guys did, I love that piece.
Yeah, and then we have the other one, the diversifying funding streams.
Yeah.
So we've been launching new templates and guides. We're going to keep them coming. We have a storytelling one that we're working on right now. We have an advocacy template based on the Medicaid cuts that are currently coming down the pipeline. So we have a ton of different resources that Allison and I are like kind of just putting out so that the sector has them.
Yep. Shout out Allison LaFrelita, Executive Director. She's our partner in that for sure. She does a great job.
And then we do a bunch of webinars.
Yeah.
We just did a whole fundraising series, which was great. We had social media, we had event planning. The one that I thought was really interesting was we had Matt Thompson from Morgan Stanley also come, and he was talking about like the great transference of wealth and different ways nonprofits could take advantage of that. And I think it was a really important thing that, you know, we got to start preparing for as well.
Yeah, nonprofitresourcehub.org. We'll share all that information out. I think this other piece that I want to bring up kind of predates you at Cerini Associates, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you brought me a gift.
Oh, I did.
Oh. I'm so surprised.
You're so surprised.
So I got a gift, and this says, turning billable hours into books, into bedtime stories. I saw it went right to book fairs here, into bedtime stories. So first of all, thank you for my gift.
Of course.
Second, am I right that this was before you got to the firm?
It was actually right after Ken and Amy had met at the Imagine Awards that year that I went.
Yes.
That's when it started. So they, Amy had a breakfast with Ken, and instead of talking about a golf outing or talking about like something like that, she asked Ken a lot of questions about himself and kind of what motivates him and got to know him as a person. And in doing that, he was given a book from her, obviously, book fairies give out books, called... oh
man, it wasn't a lunch book.
It's called... I'm going to blank on
My
it.
phone's over there. I would text Amy right now.
Okay. Purpose Incorporated.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, and he read it, and then because she said, read this, and then let's have lunch. And so he read it and sat down, and what they ended up coming up with was for every billable hour, we put a book in the hand of a child through our partnership with the Book Fairies. And to date, we've given up over 250,000 books.
I mean, like, if we had a live studio audience, it'd be like this, but, like, I mean, that's incredible. 250,000 books. You know, you and I talked to Eileen Minogue, is a friend of ours. We hang out, right? But like the social determinants of somebody's, not just social determinants of health, but the future of their life and all this stuff. Literacy is, this might sound obvious, but literacy is critically important. And 250,000 books in the hands of children who didn't have access to books is life-changing stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, it is something that, you know, reading is something that was important to Ken growing up. You know, we got The Hobbit read to us, and Harry Potter with different voices.
He read you The Hobbit?
Oh yeah, he read them to us.
The Hobbit is not a small book.
Yep.
Tolkien is
all
not
the Harry
small.
Potter books.
The Harry Potter books. But he did voices?
Oh, voices?
See, the thing about voices is I used to love to read and do voices with my kids, but I would forget which voice I used for who.
Nope.
Not him, huh?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
But he used to like playing like Dungeons and Dragons as a kid and stuff like that. Isn't that right? Isn't that like his scene? So that's kind of like he's like in that whole thing. I mean, we know about his office and
the dungeon.
The dungeon and the whole facade there. We're out of time, so I want to just ask you, what do you see as like the future of your role and how you continue to elevate, certainly in the nonprofit sector, but at Cerini and Associates?
I think ultimately, like, I just want to continue to serve as that resource. So continue to make connections so that I can kind of figure out what resources we can provide.
Yeah.
A lot of the times I'm just coming up with ideas that I think people need to know about, but I just want to continue to grow, and I eventually want to become the non-sector.
You got to learn how to say it before you try to take the title, kid.
I can't even say it, but you know.
We are recruiting for junior nonprofit sector connectors. And if you pause when you say it, you'll be able to get all the words.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
It is. That's why you got to be like, some work to do. Some work to do. I love you. I'm so appreciative of your friendship.
Tommy.
You do so many great things in the world. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are welcome. Hey everybody, it's me again. All right, listen, the show is called Long Island Changemakers. It is my opportunity and sort of a blessing that I'm grateful for, that I get to hang out with cool people who are doing important work on the front lines on this island, supporting our communities, our nonprofits, and our businesses, and our people. I'd just like to tell you, make it a great day. This has been another In Focus production. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Did you